So everyone's been watching the playoffs. We have been watching mainly this series. Like, there's been a lot of great series, but honestly, this was the one that most people were excited about. One of the most anticipated first round matchups in years between the Boston Celtics and the Brooklyn Nets. And KD, he didn't play particularly well, but man, people are completely going crazy. Right now, apparently Jason Tatum's a better player than Kevin Durant. He outplayed in the series, but that's kind of crazy, considering the fact that, like, not even 10 months ago, they were on the same team and Jason Tatum was unplayably bad, while KD is the only reason him and Drew Holiday they won a gold. But the Celtics came out with Jaylen Brown, athletic wing, who was very, very disciplined. Theis, who's a big body, he'll work hard, and is again incredibly disciplined defender. Jason Tatum, who surprisingly enough on the defensive end played more disciplined than anyone's ever seen him. Grant Williams, who is not the most athletic, not the quickest, but again, he's strong, he was willing to get physical and disciplined. Robert Williams, one of the best rim protectors, who's fast on his feet, one of the best defenders, period, in the NBA. Again, fairly disciplined. Marcus Smart, not the most disciplined defender, but defensive player of the year, and is an absolute pest with unbelievably quick hands. And Al Horford, not as quick as he used to be, but incredibly, incredibly disciplined. Look, I'm just putting it out there right now. I don't think there's a single player in the history of basketball that is going to be able to play efficiently against this defense. Look at this. Shout out to Thinking Basketball for these clips. But look at this, like, he's being manhandled by two people. Then he gets the ball. And by the time he's worked that hard to get the ball, he's being double teamed. There are bodies everywhere. I honestly don't think there's a player in the history of basketball that scores efficiently. I think that Kevin Durant could have done a better job of winning, but I don't think it was necessarily his fault. Like, I think you put Tatum in Kevin Durant's spot and he averages 12 points per game. I'm not even kidding. If you swap Tatum and Kevin Durant, I reckon Tatum for the Brooklyn Nets averages 12 points a game. And even in game 3, when they were making their comeback, it was KD facilitating. He was taking up all the gravity, was giving it to players, and his passing was the only reason they came back in game 3, which is apparently his worst game because he didn't shoot that much. But his passing was great. It was just down the stretch his teammates didn't score. However, this is a huge thing. This quote right here. The motion offense we run in Golden State, it only works to a certain point. We can rely on our system for maybe the first 2 rounds. Then next 2 rounds are going to have to mix in individual play. A severely flawed logic of the game of basketball, which is kind of what has been the downfall of Kevin Durant. A big reason why he left Golden State, because it was more system. The system got more credit. Steph Curry's gravity got more credit. And heck, Steph's perfect. We all want to play ISO ball, but you'd rather have some form of championships. Kevin Durant, I don't think realized that it's just a flawed way of looking at the game of basketball, because like ISO ball is not going to work against exactly what the Celtics threw at him. If the Warriors system with Kevin Durant was playing against that Boston Celtics team, Kevin Durant would have averaged equally as many points on less shots, shot a seriously high percentage, and would have been the best player on the floor by a country mile. He would have looked like Kevin Durant because that was the thing. That was the system. Players moving, ball moving. It doesn't allow you to double. You double Steph, boom, KD's open. You double KD, boom, Steph's open, Clay's open. Heck, most systems, that's kind of the case. And Kevin Durant's playmaking, it's getting better, but he's not Luka, he's not LeBron James. It's tough to give the ball to him and say, go and win us a game, because the game, it was just stagnant. No one was moving. There was no player movement. The whole system of Brooklyn Nets was trying to get KD into an ISO situation. And in the end, that allowed Boston Celtics defense to do what it did. I'm not sure, again, there is a player in the history of basketball that with the Brooklyn Nets isolation system could have done any better against the Boston Celtics defense. Like, I wish that I could say, oh yeah, you put LeBron in that scenario, things are different. I don't think so. I think prime LeBron James struggles almost as much to get the ball. And with his passing, I think that, like, if he had teammates that just weren't hitting shots, he was going to struggle. I just think it was a severely flawed offensive system by the Brooklyn Nets and a great defensive system by the Boston Celtics to stop arguably the best player in the world from being the best player in the world. Tatum outplayed him in the series, but that was more so a case of his team just being better and a system working. The game plan of the Brooklyn Nets didn't work. The game plan of the Celtics did. The Celtics out-tacticked them. This is not an individual game. Basketball is a team sport, as much as people like to talk about it 1v1 isolation. And that's the reason why Kevin Durant is in the position he is in. It's a flawed logic of basketball. This isn't the 1990s anymore. You can't win with one player. Systems are too good. Players are too good. The 15th guy on the end of the bench is probably better than a starting 5 player 20 years ago in basketball. The players are too good. Ball movement's too good. These elite teams like the Warriors are too good ball movement wise. The Milwaukee Bucks pass the ball and move the ball too well. Even the Boston Celtics, their defensive schemes are too good. ISO ball doesn't work. And I honestly think Kevin Durant was in a position to fail. There is a 0% chance that he succeeded against that defense. Even if he played like gone disguised as KD, I still think they lose. The biggest mistake, I think, in the history of basketball was Kevin Durant leaving the Golden State Warriors. Because even off the Achilles tear, I think the Golden State Warriors win the championship last year with Kevin Durant. Yeah, Draymond was out for quite a bit, but I think they go into the playoffs, come up against that 1 seed Utah Jazz if they get in as the 8th seed. If they get in as a 7th seed, maybe they beat the Suns, maybe not, but I think they beat the Jazz. They then come up against the injured Clippers, they go and beat them. Western Conference Finals, they're on a roll, they probably go and beat the Phoenix Suns. One of the biggest what-ifs ever is if KD had just not been dumb and gone to Golden State. If he had just realized that he can be the best player on the best team in basketball. And that's something that is like not an easy thing to do. KD can fit into any system. KD passes. KD is disciplined. He can pass the ball. He can move. He can shoot the ball. And he can play ISO if needed. But honestly, KD fit perfectly into that Warrior system. And he just let NBA Twitter and NBA media get into his head. He made a decision based on his quote-unquote legacy, when in reality he could have 5-6 rings in Golden State because he was just that guy. He made it unfair. He made the Golden State Warrior system unfair because he was simultaneously a top 2 player in the world and he fit into the system perfectly. But he decided to go to Brooklyn for more ISO touches. And it was the worst decision ever because I don't think there's a single player in the history of basketball that could have beaten that Boston Celtics team in an ISO system. So who's better right now, Jason Tatum or Kevin Durant? If you answer Jason Tatum, you are crazy. You are absolutely crazy. Jason Tatum is incredible, but Kevin Durant is still arguably the best player in the world. He didn't have the greatest series, but as much as part of it was on him, not all of it was. Game 3 is the game that people point to saying, oh, KD only took X amount of shots. If you look at the actual things that KD was doing on the floor, their comeback was caused by KD's distribution. A lot of what KD did on the floor was good. It was just asking too much. People were expecting Kevin Durant to play like the greatest player of all time. And I think that's Kevin Durant to have won that series against Boston with the current ISO system that they played and the way Boston played defense would have had to have played the best playoff series in the history of basketball to have won. Just my opinion. So that's the video. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe.